Hello and welcome to the Radiate Wellness podcast with your host, metaphysician, Reiki master, and hypnotherapist, Christy Clemens Hoffman. Each week, we will discover teachings, tips, and tools to radiate your best life ever with practitioners, authors, and luminaries to help you on your path. Wellness, joy, peace, abundance. What do you want to radiate?
Hello and welcome back to the Radiate Wellness podcast. Today we radiate answers with my dear friend and soul sister, Debz Shakti. She is a globally renowned professional quantum hypnotherapist and open channel, offering clients and students a diverse menu of other PSI services, including energy, alchemy, and ET contact, and paranormal experience counseling. And the newest thing that Debz brings forward is the movie Abduction, Alien Answers, and Alien Abduction Answers. Finally got it right. Okay, and you're one of the co-producers.
Yes. Thank you, Christy. I'm so honored to be here. Finally, I love your show. So excited.
Bless your heart. Well, we've been trying to do this for a while, but you've been so darn busy with this film.
Yeah, boy, it's been all encompassing. I have to tell you, what an education and what a rapid education it's been. So
it's not even
fun
yet. When does it come out?
It comes out for streaming services on May the 3rd. So just a few weeks.
Not long. This episode actually may be out about that time. I'll have to double check the schedule and see what's going on. It would be so exciting. And then it's going to be on all the things, all the places, Hulu and Netflix and Amazon.
Starts on Amazon, Apple TV, iTunes, Google Play, Kino Now. My goodness, I can't even, there are like 13 big platforms it's going to start on. And then later in the summer, it'll go to either Netflix or Hulu, who are still kind of doing battle about it. And then eventually it comes out on DVD.
Exactly. So. And I just can't wait, because you've been in the alien ET cosmosphere playground forever.
All this life and many others, yes.
Many others. Love your background, by the way, honey. So cool.
Thank you. It's where I'm most comfortable. It's my happy place. Space is my happy place.
Space is my happy place. Now, you have not always been a filmmaker.
No, not until the last year and a half or so.
Oh my gosh. Well, what made you want to do this? I mean, that's an awfully big project.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of got sucked into it inadvertently, as serendipitous as the universe is. When we allow ourselves to be open to the infinite possibilities that are around us and just say yes when things feel exciting, that's what happened. I had met the filmmaker like maybe 3 years ago for a different reason, had a little hour meeting, really liked the guy. But here's what happened. My inner spidey sense started going off. My guide said, you need to get in touch with him after this meeting because there's something important here. And I thought, oh, okay, he's a big time filmmaker. He's never gonna, after this, all I had was an email address. Probably won't even read it out of 1,000 emails he gets a day. But I went into meditation, and for 2 days they kept at me and they said, look, you have to contact him and we'll tell you what to say when you do. And I did. And when I contacted him, I said, I really enjoyed our meeting, but you're hiding something. You're hiding from something, and you're under a lot of pain and suffering. And I would like to help you find out what it is and help you through it if you're open. And he was gobsmacked. A, he opened the email. B, he contacted me right away. And he's like, how did you see that? And I said, well, I don't see all of it. Let's talk about it. And we had a conversation. Turns out he had a very traumatic experience when he was a 7-year-old boy that affected the rest of his life. and he was putting on this big front. To make the story very short, I offered him my services as a channel and as a quantum hypnotherapist, which he was terrified of both, didn't know anything about anything. That wasn't his thing. Mm. And so we had to go in tiny little bites to gain trust. We did several mini sessions where he had some kind of interesting and fun memories come up and he connected with, but he always kept that experience off to the side, and he called it the big one. He just couldn't look at it. He was very afraid. And then one day, a couple of Octobers ago, he called me and he's like, Debz, I'm ready to do the big one. And I said, oh, good, let's set up a time. Right in the middle of the pandemic lockdown, of course. So let's set up a time. And he said, no, I don't think you understand. I really do want to do it, but now I'm being told, I'm being compelled to do it real time on film and make a small documentary and give it to the world, because I feel like there are a lot of other people who will resonate and benefit from it. And you know, my first reaction is, well, I'm very cool. You know, I'm cool with being open-ended, but I have some rules about how I do my work, and, you know, how are we going to film this where A, I can't travel to you. I do this over Zoom, and that's not very cinematic. And B, I don't allow other people in the room, and so forth. And it's like, we'll work it out. We'll work it out. And within a week, the travel stuff was lowered. So, you know, it took a lot of precautions, but I traveled to him, and we figured out how to have all the equipment and all of the people in other rooms via cables and remote stuff to film it. And we did it. And when we did it, it was the most shocking, moving, compelling thing I've ever been through, and certainly him. And what he found was what he thought he had experienced was not what he had experienced. And it literally now has pushed him into his new purpose in life, which is to bring answers about this type of thing to the world so that other people aren't confused about it.
And so this session was about an abduction?
Yes, when he was 7 years old. A very frightening experience, which then turned into him remembering a lifetime of experiences from earliest memory on to now, you know. And there's a lot to the story. I'm not going to give up any more about that, just because we want you to watch the movie and see it, because it's very visceral what he goes through. But it's a very common story. I hear it almost every day from my clients, you know. Not that I do only ETA, alien abduction clients, but experiencer stuff. But I seem to get a lot of those people resonating with me. So.
Yeah, I get quite a few of those too. It's
I know you do.
fascinating. So it's amazing that well, A, that he has any memory of it. Many people don't really. And then B, that they would allow this to come out. Mm-hmm. So why do you think it was allowed to come out? Mm-hmm.
Well, because it's time, because of what's happening now, because of the shift that we're all going through. Everybody's waking up and starting to realize, hey, there's a lot of stuff that I've been through in my life that I don't really understand, or I'm just starting to remember, or that doesn't seem to mesh with what I'm being told life is about. But what he remembered as a traumatic experience, that, by the way, you know, again, I can't give too much of the story away, but his parents, it was a very scary thing that happened to him one night, and his parents were awakened from his reaction to it. And his father was very stern and told him, don't ever talk to anybody about this, because he actually has a mark from the experience on his shoulder. And he was told to keep quiet about how it happened, because he just kept saying, this being touched me on the shoulder and pushed me down the stairs, and that's what happened. And the father said, I don't ever want you to tell anybody about that. That's basically said, that's BS, you know? And so he lied all his life about it. And because he was lying about it, he started lying about the whole thing to himself until it turned into something completely different. But he lived a life of feeling terrified and, you know, like always on edge until he had the session and then saw what really happened and saw who it happened with and what it was all about. And he was just like, his whole universe opened up. And now he is a different person, and his dharma is to bring this message to everyone else. You may not know what you think you know, and if you're suffering especially, you need to reach out to people who do have a way to help you understand. But basically, what we're being told is by virtue of this movie being put out there, actually being that, I think it was, I don't want to say divine intervention, that may put some people off, but it was made to be put out there beyond beyond our efforts. Let's just say it was supposed to be out there. It's kind of like a catalytic thing for our society to start to waken up and get the answers about this stuff, know who they are.
Without giving too much away, what was the purpose of this visit?
Of his visitation, his first one?
Yeah.
I believe, as with all of these impactful moments that people have in their memory, whether they're screen images or not, and you know what a screen image is, but most people may not. It's what the brain translates as something, is so that you're not so
traumatized,
right? So whatever they remember, it's like putting a push pin in a map, so that when they are ready to take on what their purpose is in life, they're going to notice that push pin, and it's going to be very pricky until they take it out and look at what's underneath it. It's like a bookmark in a book, right? It's a placeholder. That's what it is.
Right. Yeah, and often these screen memories or screen images, however you call them, are something that you would know, like an owl, a very large owl.
Exactly. That's a very stereotypical one.
It is very stereotypical, something that you would know and accept.
Right.
And so
for him, I can give this away. For him, it was the old, 60s cartoon character, Ultraman. He saw Ultraman in his house, and Ultraman scared him, shocked him, scared him, and reached out and touched him and caused a burn mark on his shoulder. And when we went into the session, you'll find it was a whole lot more than Ultraman. But as a 7-year-old child, that's what his brain translated what he was seeing. It was the least scary, most familiar thing.
Right. And this wasn't the only experience he had when he was. No.
But he didn't know that until we went into the session. Mm-hmm. And then he started pulling other things out and was just like, oh my gosh. I've lived a whole other life. This is amazing.
That is incredible. Yeah, that's been my experience too. If it's happened once, it's happened more than once.
Yes, yeah. And the really beautiful thing is that when we went to the higher self to ask for, to tie it all together, what does this mean? What is the purpose of all this? The same questions you're asking right now. As you know, because you've sat in these, you have facilitated these sessions, you do this too. His entire visage changed. He literally did his sessions sitting on a couch. And, as he was going through all of this stuff, he had all he was more relaxed, but he had all of the emotional features going on with what he was saying. And then we went to the higher self, and immediately, and he's a very big guy, immediately he sits up very tall and straight, and there's a big booming voice comes out. And you'll hear him say in his reflection of it in the movie, it was like this giant being was standing behind him, speaking through him. And what amazing, moving truth came out of that. And he was so shocked. We were all shocked. It was amazing.
Yes. And so the type of work you do is quantum healing or quantum hypnosis. I do quantum healing hypnosis technique, the Dolores Cannon stuff. And yours is very similar in that you go to the higher self. And so in your work, was that his higher self speaking with this big booming voice, or was it the aliens he'd been in contact with?
Well, I would say both and, because there's no, right? We're all connected. But
Right.
when for people who are listening to this podcast, higher self is kind of that highest version of yourself that you can still resonate with, that has the ability to tap into the quantum field and give you the answers. It's, source.
Yes. Dolores Cannon, that is, called it the subconscious, which is not entirely accurate in psychological.
Right.
It's just that higher part of you that's behind our waking consciousness that is connected to everything and everyone else.
Right. Some practitioners of other modalities call it the Akashic records or the Hall of Records, or the universal stream of consciousness. So.
Right. Yeah. Your soul, your higher self, your eternal being. Yes. All of that. And so his higher self knew exactly what was going on. Right. So it was.
Yes,
him.
it always does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow.
And it has quite an agenda, by the way.
Well, yeah.
It started laying it out. And what gets my heart is that the session itself took about 5.5 hours.
Yeah.
We have all of that footage, and every second is gold, and yet you have to distill it down into a 92-minute movie. And it's just the session itself is kind of the climax of that movie. So how do you distill down all of that treasure into a few minutes? It's really difficult, but I think we did it.
I think you did. That is so exciting. Now, these beings who were responsible for this, I hate the word abduction. It sounds so overwhelmingly negative, right?
Lady, I'm right there with you. When he told me what the name of the movie was going to be, I'm like, I don't resonate with that at all. I literally said I can't be part of it. And he's like, listen to there's a method to the madness. His guides. By that time, he knew he had guides. So he was off and running. He's like, you told me I have guides. You helped me find my guides. Now my guides are saying, this is the name of the movie. And here's why. Because if you name it something like, my contacting consciousness revelation or something, high and mighty like that, you're just going to be preaching to the choir, which is a very small part of your population. But everyone on your planet has now been programmed to believe that there is a possibility that aliens from outer space come and abduct people and do things to them. So those words, alien abduction, will get their attention. And then you do the bait and switch in the movie, which we do.
You do. Now, I've also had on this show G.L. Davis, who is from Wales, and he wrote the book Harvest, which was about another alien visitation encounter. And so, of course, you're familiar with this, but it's the dark side of it. But that's not really what happens for a majority of these visitations and contacts, is it?
Right. And it is really what I believe, and this is just me, Christy, but what I believe is you get the reality that you are resonant with, that you're, that you are vibrationally a match to. So if all you do is look at conspiracy theory videos all day long about dark reptilians who are going in and harvesting your organs for some evil purpose, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
That's probably going to be the reality that you recognize. But we have infinite realities on a multidimensional spectrum that we can focus upon and enjoy or learn from or experience. And so I would say that, that's part of the message of this movie, is that people need to understand that it's not what the Hollywood version usually is. It's not. In fact, I would say it's so much more. Really, it's about consciousness and unity consciousness. That's what the highest part of this is. And it's about realizing we're all connected, and we get to choose how we want to interact with the rest of our being, which is everything and everyone else. ETs included, angels included, fairies included, insert entity here,
All part of the same consciousness.
It is. Yeah. Yeah.
So what these beings that, did this visitation, how were they drawn to the subject? How do they know about him? Why him?
Wow, that's a really good question. That's a question I've asked myself many times too. Why me? Why us? Here's the real brain clunker for everyone. I believe all humans have contact. All humans have contact. And why is that? Because the beings that they're having contact with are them on another layer of life. The guy he called Ultraman was him on a different frequency, trying to wake him up, trying to show him there's more to life. The beings who first interacted with and continue to interact with Whitley Strieber, who is also in our movie, by providence.
Yeah, right.
They are different versions of him, trying to shake him loose from his, rigid, third-dimensional, physical, dualistic construct. The little spacesuit that he's inhabiting is not him. So, that's, I believe the question isn't so much why me, but who am I? And what am I supposed to be doing? And these visitations and these experiences help give us the information we need to explore that further and to perhaps do something even greater than we've done before with what we find out. So,
well, isn't that interesting? Can you share the name of this subject, of the filmmaker?
Can I the name of the one?
Can you share the name of the filmmaker, the subject?
Yes, absolutely. His name is John Yost. I should have said that at the very beginning. John Yost. He works with Rhino Pictures, RYNO Pictures, which is a subsidiary of Rhino Productions. It's been in business for probably like 35 years, I believe, the company. So their main office, their main studios in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So
John, a 7-year-old child, really not doing a heck of a lot in terms of consciousness, or even probably aware of all of this reality beyond the 4-dimensional world that we're in. That must have been quite earth-shattering to have this experience.
Let's just say his egg got cracked open really wide, really fast. And as you know, when people have these gigantic cataclysmic realizations, somebody has to be there to help pick up the eggshells and put Humpty Dumpty back together again, or at least give some support. And I believe that's where I came in. You know, he's a brilliant man, and he, well, you know, he's extremely well educated. He speaks many languages. I don't even know how many languages. He's always speaking some other language that I didn't know he could speak. Um, I think his personal library is probably over 3,000 books that he has read. You know, he's a really well-educated man, but this was all new territory for him. And when he had this, you know, when the veil got pulled back, he needed some help and, you know, really conceptualizing the whole thing and doing something with it, because he is a very purposeful being.
So at 7 years old, his father was not supportive. He told him to suppress it. And of course, I'm sure growing up in a, you know, typical United States household, you don't talk about this. And, you know, it was a few decades ago.
Mhm.
How did this experience affect and shape him, do you think?
Yeah, well, he's,
Well,
you know, you should probably interview him to get all of his perspective, but I've heard the story many times. Well, and you know, for a long time, a lot of this was confidential between he and I. That's what he wanted to work on. He was the lie itself wove itself like barbed wire around his heart and his mind so much that he began to be terrified of things. Like he was terrified of being under the sky, big areas of vastness. He was afraid to be anywhere near big water. He was afraid to be in crowds. He was always on alert level 10 plus, you know, when surrounded by people. He didn't like the dark. Everything was a threat to him. And you would never have known it because he, like I said, he's a giant of a man, and he is he's a big giant Irishman. He's extremely affable. Everything's a joke. He's very theatrical in his nature, and everyone loves him. He's the life of the party. No one knew how much suffering this man was going through every minute of every day. And so it really it did a number on him. But yeah, so anyway, that's how it affected him through. And you know, you can only push a spring down so far before it gains so much inertia that it pops back out and the jack in the box just explodes everywhere. And that's what happened when we met. So
you recognize that he had this pain, that he had this secret.
mhm.
I
Yeah,
love that.
yeah,
And
yeah. It was so bizarre.
it is so bizarre. Yeah, and how did you know to meet this man? How did that even come about?
Well, it's funny because there is a whole story behind that. But he was, you know, as a filmmaker, this was not his genre at all. He was doing many other things, but he became friends. Well, I think his company was hired to do another film in this genre, and which I will not name because it didn't work out well, because it wasn't supposed to, because this was supposed to happen. But anyway, he met many people making that film, which went on to be made by someone else using his footage. But again, that's another story. Anyway, he was making a film about a subject he knew really nothing about, but he's a good filmmaker, and his crew is a good crew. And they parted ways. But when they parted ways, some of the people who were in the film, the first film, who were associated with the subject of the film, said, you know, you got such a raw deal. We don't understand. It hurts. Some of us have some money, and we'd like to get together with you and fund another film to be made, you know, on your own terms. How do you feel about that? And so that was an idea that was being bantied around. And some of those people, especially the main person who had the idea, was a dear friend of mine, and who I serve on a contact team with. And so this person said, hey, I have somebody else you might want to meet, who you might want to put in this film. Let's meet. So I met with my friend, the financial backer, and John. So there were these kind of triangulated thing here, the connection, the financial person, and the filmmaker about this project. And it was just a little hour meeting, and they played some of my channelings that happened during CE5s and things that were really compelling. And everybody's like, yeah, that's cool. Let's. It was just in the brainchild moments of thinking about making this other movie. And so, I get people asking me to be on television shows and radio shows and film projects all the time, and half the time it just doesn't work out, and that's fine. So I didn't think a whole lot about it until that meeting was over, and then I got that message, and it would not leave me alone. So that's how this came about. The movie that we were talking about making together for the first meeting didn't work out. It just, it didn't work out because this was supposed to happen.
Did you know that Radiate Wellness is more than just a podcast? That's right. We're also a comprehensive, holistic wellness practice. Find out about our services, practitioners, and upcoming events at radiatewellnesscommunity.com. While you're there, visit our podcast page to read more about our great guests and even donate to the podcast. If you like our podcast, you can help in other ways as well, like subscribe or follow us wherever you're listening right now. Tell a friend, a family member, or a coworker about the great content you find here. And if you wouldn't mind, please give us a thumbs up, a 5-star rating, or a positive review. Sounds like a small thing, but it really helps. You might like to know about our Facebook communities while we're at it. We have a free community, the Radiate Wellness community, on Facebook for news and great free content. Our subscribers group is Radiate You, as in the letter U, but also, well, you. There you'll find curated replays of past classes, guest interviews, and more. And now, back to our podcast and back to our guest.
This was the project that needed to come together. The other one was just not even a ruse, but it was
it's like a stepping stone.
A stepping stone. Thank you. Right.
Yeah. All of everything in life that happens, and this is the work that I do with people often, especially coming through the channelings, and it comes through these quantum hypnosis sessions, usually from the higher self. Nothing is a mistake. Nothing is a negative thing that has ever happened to you. They're all stepping stones to bring you to the place where you are now.
Exactly. I don't know if you've ever read that book, A Prayer for Owen Meany by John Irving. Beautiful, right?
Love it. Absolutely.
All these random things happen in Owen's life and his best friend. You just think, how does this ever tie together? And then it does. At the end, everything ties together. So like
always resolves.
It always does. And so I wanted to switch back to the film. You've got Whitley Strieber making a special guest appearance.
Yeah, he's quite prevalent throughout the movie, actually. So again, who would have thunk, right? My own lifelong contact experiences and working with energy and all the beings, the multidimensional life that I was living, I was keeping that fairly, not a secret, but I wasn't tooting my horn about it. But, I grew up in the mid 50s and on, and I was told early on, you do not talk about that anymore. I was raised in a very strict religious family and went to a parochial school and all that. And so I kind of lived a parallel thing to John, right? And but I had begun to start to be more open about it, but I didn't have a whole lot of context for it yet until I was a very young mother. I went to a bookstore because back then you had to go buy or borrow books at the library. I was going to buy, I think, a book on intuitive potty training or something, alternative means of potty training, because I had a little baby. And I was at the bookstore in the parenting aisle for potty training. And this book falls off. This is so stereotypical, falls off the top shelf, hits me on the big toe. And I'm looking at the cover of Whitley's book, Communion.
Wow.
With that iconic face that a lot of your listeners will probably know of an alien. And I saw that book and everything, it was just like my whole life was right there. I recognized that face. And needless to say, I forgot about the potty training book, bought that book, went home, devoured it in a night, and thought, he knows my life. This man knows my life. I have to meet this man. And then, about a year later, the movie comes out with Christopher Walken playing him, and it's a big deal. And so all of my life, I've wanted to meet him, just meet him and say thank you, because I thought I was, this crazy person having all this stuff and didn't really know anybody else who had. And so we're done. We're finished filming the movie. We were finished. We were in post-production, and we had reached out to a lot of people asking if they wanted to be in it, including, by the way, a lot of my own clients are in this movie telling their experiences. And that is the real moving part of the movie, because people will see themselves in these everyday mothers, teachers, doctors, lawyers, these people talking about this work. But we reached out to some other, celebrities and stuff, seeing if they wanted to be in it. And Whitley was at the top of our list. John too, because he had read all of his books by then. And we never heard back from him. And I thought, well, it is what it is. He's busy. He probably gets asked a million times. And we were in post-production, and we get an email back from him saying, I'm really sorry. I've been very busy, and I had a kind of a life-altering kind of thing happen in my life, in my personal life. And I'm just now getting back to you. Is it still a possibility to be involved? We're like,
yes.
Where and when? And basically, I think it was like a week and a half later, we all flew out to Ojai, California, to a beautiful place where we had a mutual friend offer us his property, and that's where we filmed all of the scenes you see with Whitley. And for 2 days, it was all Whitley all the time. And again, distill it down into these few minutes in the movie, so hard. But what we got were a lot of things that I think we'll have some extras with him, and some little vignette things, because his deceased wife, Anne, came through, and she is involved as well. The movie is actually dedicated to Anne Strieber. So,
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, Whitley Strieber, he is just so iconic in this contact world, right?
Yes.
That is amazing.
And now we're good friends. I mean, email and text, and I adore him. He's wonderful, and he and John are very, very good friends now. He adores John. So,
oh my gosh, that's beautiful. To see this. Now, this whole contact, the connection with extraterrestrials, etc. You've been doing this for decades, and apparently since childhood too. And you've had some amazing sightings yourself. I remember some of the stories that you've got, and I was just like, oh my gosh, that was in practically my backyard. Where was I? You know,
Yeah.
amazing. And then you're very involved in CE5.
Yes.
CE5 of being contact and trying to establish contact. Can you tell us a bit about your work with that?
Right. Well, I've had some sort of contact group again for about 40 years. Back in the day, we called it, stargazing or sky watching, and then when I became more open, we called it star seed gathering and things like that. But the common name, when Dr. Greer started becoming more visible and everything, was CE5, which means close encounters of the fifth kind, i.e. human initiated contact with non-local consciousness, or whatever you want to call them, ET beings. So probably I would say, again, maybe 15 years ago was when I first started really having like monthly gatherings. Definitely 10, 11 years ago. And had a nice core group of people, and the people rotate in and out as they do. But about 5 years ago, not only was the local group really strong and having all of these incredible experiences together, but then I started being invited to be on some more national level groups and international groups. And so I travel, and we teach, retreats where we teach people how to do this and go out there and start their own groups and so forth. So, every day I have contact constantly, but every day, like every night, wherever, there's usually some sort of manifestation. In fact, I've got a little handheld radio here where they've been chirping away ever since we started. I don't know if you can pick that up, but
what the heck that was? I was like, Debz, I think you got something turned on there. You need to.
Yeah, that's them chiming in saying, "Yeah, buddy, that's right."
Was that it again?
That was it. Yeah. Yeah, I can show you. Sorry, I forgot I had it on because I have it on all the time. It's just a little. And we do this out in the field. We take these. My good friend Jimmy Blanchett, who now is known, he kind of started this contact modality called the radio contact modality, and I was on his original team when we started researching this. You can see all of his videos on YouTube as well, or in all of these CE5 sites. He's a very big name as well. So.
Right. And so do you know Stephen Greer, David Wilcock, some of these other names in this? Okay. Yeah. Have you been?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Now, I have not met Dr. Greer personally,
Right.
but most of the people on these higher level groups that I work with are all come from either his original team or his current team. So yeah, friends with everybody in the community. And that's how I want to stay. As you start to I don't know why it is, but when humans start to organize things, then they start to, become separate entities and the hierarchies and all that. And I'm not about that at all. I'm like, I love all you people. So let's just, so yeah, I'm friends with everybody in the community, and I want to keep that way. The more friends, the better. So.
Yeah.
But I am friends with a lot of the big name people that you read about and know all the time and see YouTube videos of. So, and some of them are my clients.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Yeah, you're quite active in the CE5 community, I have to say. And I've been to some of your events, and, there's always contact whenever you have an event.
We pull good people, it's the vibration of the group that causes that to happen. So it's amazing.
Yeah. And then you also have your own team, the Star Teachers. Mm-hmm. Can you tell about them and how you started working with them?
Yeah, well, I started talking about, I publicly started talking about them again about 10 years ago, or a little less, because they physically came into one of my healing sessions. I do energy healing work as well. And I had a terminal cancer patient who didn't believe in any of this stuff. And I was kind of her last straw. I think she had a gift certificate, her family member bought it. And she came in and wanted, she's like, whatever, I don't believe in this, but I'm here. And I literally remember just sending the intention out there, whoever can come and help me bring this person out of suffering, please. Whatever that means. I don't close it and say, keep them from dying or anything, just help them out of suffering. So I'm doing the energy work and seeing all kinds of things. And suddenly I look up and the ceiling was gone from my office. And there was a huge craft above the building, above my office. And standing at the foot of the massage table that the person was on were these 7.5, 8-foot, semi-transparent, featureless humanoid beings. And literally it's just telepathic, information saying, let us help you. And one of them literally came behind me and slipped my body on and started manipulating energy through my body. And I learned a lot that day. I got a lot of different techniques, but I was just floored. And then this, eventually the session was over. I set her up. The ceiling closed up. It was all back to this place. And I said, how are you feeling? Which is my first question always. And she said, I'm perfect. And I said, oh, good, you're feeling better, because she's in a lot of pain and suffering. And she said, no, you don't understand. I'm perfect. I'm 100% perfect. I don't have cancer anymore. And I'm like, awesome. That's good. That happens sometimes. And
Sure.
she said, I want to tell you what happened. The ceiling opened up. There was a spacecraft, and she just started describing the same thing that I had seen. Now, this is a person who didn't even believe in energy work. So she's like, I sound like an insane person, but that's what I experienced. And I said, that's exactly what I experienced. And lo and behold, she literally did. She didn't have cancer anymore when she went back for her follow-up visit, her next visit. And she eventually, went on and lived her life, and that's been a happy story. But from that moment on, I started channeling these beings, and all this information was coming out very strong. And they gave me an ultimatum or a referendum and said, you need to hold a gathering so that we can talk to many people at one time. And when they did, it was like the middle of February in Kansas City, Missouri, in the middle of a blizzard. And I'm like, this, nobody's going to come. They said, put it out there. And I'm like, and I don't have an event space. They said, do it in your house. My house is tiny. Can't get a lot of people. Well, the night that it was supposed to happen, over 50 people packed into my little house in the middle of a snowstorm in February.
I think I was at that one.
You might have been there, but they're answering all these questions. There's stuff I have no idea is coming out of my mouth. And one person there said, this is incredible, but who are you? Who are we talking to? And they said, we're you on a different layer of being. We have evolved from you. You are our future ancestors. However, we realize you need a label sometimes. That's how that's how you attach to what you need to call on us. So you can call us the star teachers, or call us simply the teachers. But they don't have names. They don't, it's more of a group entity, although each one of them has some unique qualities still. But it's hard to get my mind around. But anyway, so ever since then, we've been working. And, you know, maybe a couple years ago when I sat and was talking with them, I said, was that the first time? And they said, no, we've been with you since, we've always been with you. You just didn't know who we were. So.
Now, I keep hearing them chiming in there on the radio. Do they have anything they want to let us know?
Basically, what we'd like for you all to know is that you already know. You know everything. You're unlimited. You are infinite. You've just been in this little science lab that you built for yourselves to have an experience for far too long, and you kind of forgot who and what you really are. But you're starting to get tired of it. You've squeezed all the blood out of this turnip, most of you, and so it's time to wake up and accept who you are. And we're here to help you in any way that we can to remind you of your possibilities and your gifts, and to help turn all the switches back on in your DNA. And that's the main message. The main message, though, is to love one another and love yourself, because you are all that there is. In Lakesh, we are another you.
Love that. And they were chiming in too. Oh, see, there they go again.
I know.
So you've been doing this work for quite a while, but you started out in psychology.
Yeah.
Yeah. Why did you start? Why psychology? What were you hoping to do with that?
You know, when I was 13, I had an awakening of my own where I met my first little Indian yoga guru by total accident. And so I became a yogi very early on. And my first year of yoga was nothing but sitting and learning how to meditate and being quiet, which was very hard for a 13-year-old double Aries, let me just tell you. But that meditation practice, and then going through the years of learning, you know, all of the branches, all of the arms of yoga, started me on my path towards understanding universal consciousness. And about that time, I started, you know, I'm also an avid reader. I got interested in learning about hypnosis because it sounded like meditation, but they kept saying, no, these are two separate things. And so basically that's why I got involved in psychology, was because that was the only way you could get education on hypnosis back in the day, was to become involved in the psychology field. So just stepping stones.
Right. And when we were speaking earlier, you said that you of course, got into hypnosis work and quickly realized that the type of things that you were interested in finding out and interested in doing was not going to be accepted by the psychology community. Yep. Which I get, and so needed to decide. It's like, well, I'm going to take this path or this path.
Right.
You never really looked back.
No, I really haven't. And it's been funny because now you see people being much more relaxed. Those lines are being much more relaxed. I mean, there's still that faction that wants to have that rigid construct, right, of control and organization. But outside the therapy room, you listen to my peers, they're all talking about consciousness and energy and, you know, all of the things. So
yeah, all the things. So, and you're in the greater Kansas City area. Mm-hmm. Do you do all of your services, all your various services online?
For the most part, yeah. For about the last 6 years, I've gone to almost all online, just because a great deal of my clientele is international. Mm-hmm. And, you know, it's, you know, so easy to just get on like we are, you know, on a Zoom and do the work, you know, than to buy a plane ticket and fly to Amsterdam and do all this. Some people still want me to, and I do. I'm like, you know, buy me a plane ticket. I'm fine with it. And sometimes, you know, I'll do someone who's a session with someone who's local. If there's no other way, it's just I can reach more people in a day doing it online, and the recording service is usually really good. And so there are a lot of benefits to doing that. But when I first started doing it, Zoom wasn't even around. It was Skype, I believe, and it was pretty clunky. But the teachers, the beings kept saying, I kept saying, well, I like to touch them, smell them, see them, I like to be in the same room. And they're like, remember, time and space are merely human constructs. They do not exist. Nothing separates you. The energy is there. The connection is there. And so trust. And that's been my big path, is learning to trust. And now that's my path with my clients and my students, is learning to trust. You have to trust that all is well and that you're doing what you're supposed to do. So yeah, I do most of it online.
That's wonderful. And we can connect with you on your website, and it's debzshakti.com, debzshakti.com. Of course, we'll have that in the show notes.
Thank you.
Oh, absolutely. The film Alien Abduction Answers comes out May 3rd. Is that correct?
That's correct.
It rolls out first where?
Amazon Prime, iTunes, Apple TV, Google Play, and many others. I can send you the complete list if you want. You can put it in the show notes if you like.
Absolutely. That would be wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
There's a website for the film.
The film's website is actually on Rhino Pictures' website. It doesn't have its own website. It does have its own Facebook page, though. If you ever want to go there, it's just Alien Abduction Answers.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Yeah. Then we'll put that in the show notes as well. Yeah. Facebook. I'm making myself a note. All right. Debz, sister, this has been wonderful and a long time. Really happy that I had to pinch myself this morning. It's like, oh my God, this is the day I get to talk to Debz. And I'm so excited. And I can't wait for your film to come out. This is so cool. So very cool. You're just amazing. And I love you so much. And
well,
wish you best.
I think you are too. You're doing the most incredible work with your clients as well. I keep up with what you're doing, and it's pretty interesting that they're giving us bits and pieces of the bigger picture through these sessions, aren't they? It's like it's all connected. So I'm just thrilled to be part of the whole cascade of what's happening, and you're in it with me, and we're riding this wild river raft ride together, I guess. Right, sister?
That's right. Absolutely. Everybody's got a piece of the same puzzle, and we're getting the picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. I love you so much. And thank you for all that you're doing in this world. You're a great light.
Me too, honey. Thank you so much. Love you.
Thanks.
Radiate Wellness is an international community of holistic and alternative healers dedicated to helping you create spiritual, energetic, and physical well-being. To learn more about our practitioners, services, classes, and events, or to schedule an appointment, visit us at radiatewellnesscommunity.com.